Finally, we're getting something. Sounds kind of weird saying that after 2 trailers coming out and posting a 30-minute analysis for each one. But even with those trailers, I would look at them and just go, it just feels like we're just getting little tiny bits of things. It was very little that was concrete where I was having a conversation with Fantasia Kitty a couple weeks ago. Just like, what kind of movie is this gonna be? I didn't have a flavor for it at all. And even with these 3 clips that are online now, you still have to kind of take them all with a grain of salt because the way they're edited, they're obviously been really condensed and shortened, and the music is obviously temp, and even the sound mixing is way off. So you have to kind of pick apart details within these clips, but I feel like this is something more concrete they're getting. We can really judge what direction are they taking the story, what's the tone, what's the idea they're going for, more so than the trailers. So I'm just going to talk about each one. So the first clip starts off with Eustace on the floor, apparently writing in his diary. At first I thought it was just a cool little Easter egg for fans. Oh yeah, Eustace's diary, which is kind of a big part of the book later on. We get to actually read some of his journal entries. But then he stuffs it into his sock, I guess, so that when he's drawn into Narnia, the diary will be drawn with him. He can write in it. So I think they are going to use this later in the movie for that reason. We see Lucy looking in the mirror, and it's hard not to feel like this is setting up what's going to happen with the Magician's Book scene. We see this in the trailer, which she's seeing her reflection as Susan in the book, just like in the Prince Caspian movie, and to some extent Wardrobe as well, where you see them really setting up what are the characters going through, and that's going to become important to their character arcs as they get into Narnia. The blocking of this scene is very similar to how it's described in the book, where the 2 Pevensies are looking at the picture and Eustace comes in and interrupts them. He calls them orphans. That freaked a lot of people out. When I saw it, it never even occurred to me that he was actually being literal, that they're going to kill off the Pevensey parents. I just thought that, it's because he's just sort of making fun of them because their parents dropped them off here and went off to America. I just thought he was making. That never occurred to me for a second he was actually literal. And at this point, there's no reason to believe they've done that. Georgie's delivery when she says, Edmund, it looks like the painting's really moving, or the waves are really moving, or whatever. My first thought was, I thought Edmund was going to look at her and go, okay, Lucy, let's get you home. I'm driving. She just looks really like there's something wrong with her. Maybe it'll feel differently in context, but this felt wrong to me. Eustace's dislike of fanciful novels and fairy tales is really important. It'd be very easy to just make him a brat here, but it's more than that. He's so prideful. He's so above those childish fairy tales. If you're a C.S. Lewis fan, that's really important. I'm going to read here real fast my favorite C.S. Lewis quote ever, if not my favorite quote ever. This was on my front door for a while. C.S. Lewis said, "When I was 10, I read fairy tales in secret and would have been ashamed if I had been found doing so. Now that I am 50, I read them openly. When I became a man, I put away childish things, including the fear of childishness and the desire to be very grown up." Love that quote. And you see that in Prince Caspian as well, with the bad guy, Miraz. That's all nonsense for babies, And that whole attitude, I'm above those fairy tales. I'm an adult. I'm above those things. Whereas Lewis observed that he got more out of fairy tales reading them as an adult than as a kid, because he was able to put more into them, and as a result got more out of them. So love that they're having that aspect of Eustace's character, a very important part of the series, very important idea. Of course, this is our first real glance at seeing Will Poulter in action as Eustace. At first, I was kind of turned off by it just because it seems kind of over the top, and I felt a lot better about it when I saw the 3rd clip. I'll talk about that when I get there. But yeah, it's Eustace, very recognizable Eustace. I mean, I don't dislike it. It's kind of like maybe a little too far. We'll see how it plays in context. The big thing I love about this, though, is that now I'm seeing Will Poulter act alongside Georgie Henley, and yes, even though Will Poulter is 2 years older than Georgie Henley, he does look like the younger cousin. That's a relief. It's just an important part of Eustace's character, that he's, kind of a puny little person who is always trying to pick a fight. So I'm really happy about that. I always kind of thought so before, but now we have something more concrete where it's like, yeah, he does look younger. On to the second clip now, which starts off with Eustace walking along this rock kind of valley thing. Presumably this Dragon Island, Deathwater? What exactly do we call it? We'll talk about that in a second. But it looks like they've cut out the scene where Eustace takes a nap, and then in his panic, they left me behind, and he runs back, and then that's how he slides down that thing and gets trapped. I think they've cut out his nap, and so he slides down here and finds a bunch of gold at the bottom. So there's no cave. In the book, he finds all this gold in a cave, and which I think is kind of a neat change. Just visually speaking, it was a really eerie visual, because you have this nothingness for miles, this rock, nothing. Looks like nothing can live there, but there's all this intricately detailed gold in this pile. It suggests backstory in kind of a creepy way. It's like, how did it all get there? I think that's really eerie. Very much in the spirit of what I love about Don Treader. Of course, yeah, there's no cave, and what more people are concerned about, there's no dragon. There's no sign that there's that first dragon that Eustace sees him die in the book. There's no sign of that. If they cut it out, maybe they want to save the big reveal for. They want Eustace to be the first time we see a dragon. That kind of makes sense. Eustace's reaction, I didn't really believe it. Like he would be totally repulsed by that skeleton. He wouldn't pull the arm ring off. That didn't really feel true for me. Maybe they just want to show how greedy Eustace is, I guess. And so it's Lord Octesian's arm ring, which he puts on his arm, just like he does in the book. Then Caspian and Edmund come along looking for him, and Edmund says, what could have happened to him? Now, what could have happened to Eustace, or what could have happened to Octesian? Who are they referring to? And where's Lord Restamar? If they put Deathwater on Dragon Island, where's Lord Restamar? And who in the book dies at Deathwater? And then Eustace says, I never should have left him. Have they added some kind of arc for Edmund where it's like he has some kind of responsibility to Eustace or something? When left him? I thought Eustace snuck off in the book, so he left him? What are they getting at here? But anyway, this suggests very strongly what we suspected already. We already know they've combined some islands, and very early on, the most likely candidate when we were speculating was they're probably going to combine Deathwater and Dragon Island because of the gold connection there. And so it looks like, because you have Caspian and Edmund coming on looking for Eustace, this is probably going to be where they have their little argument about who has the rights to this gold, and they see Aslan and they kind of forget. So thematically, you can kind of see where they're taking greed and they can weave those two things together. But as far as the plot, how do they tie it all together? I'm just not sure. And at the end, we actually hear Gale talk, and then we see Drenny and say, "Oh, that's no volcano," So maybe possibly a really cool introduction for it. This probably precedes the dragon attack scene we saw spy videos of. But also, does indeed look like they've combined Dragon Island and Deathwater together. It really could work. You see how all the pieces are kind of related. I'm just not sure how is all this actually going to fit together. The third and final clip begins with Caspian looking off screen and saying, "Aslan's country. We must be close," which out of context seemed kind of strange. It's like, if you're seeing Aslan's country, then you're probably close to Aslan's country. It's like, duh. Maybe this line will make more sense in context. Just seemed kind of dumb right here. This is a really interesting adaptation choice. They've taken a lot of the words that Lewis wrote about what it felt like for Eustace to be undragoned, and the pain it felt, and how he had to let Aslan do it, and they translated that into dialogue. This is a common challenge with adapting really any book, but Narnia in particular. In a book, it's very easy for the narrator to just tell you, this is what the characters were thinking, and you don't question it. You just go along with it. But in a movie, for some reason, you can't just do voiceover. It just does not work as well as it does in a book. It's hard to. You have to come up with visual ways of communicating what a character's thinking. Here, they've translated a lot of what Lewis wrote into dialogue. Could be a good thing. It's great that they understand thematically the importance of those ideas that Eustace, who's so prideful and above all this fairy tale stuff, has to lie down and say, "There's something wrong with me, Aslan, and you're the one that has to fix it." That's a really critical moment for his character, of course. My only concern would be that I hope that the scene stands by itself still. When Eustace is undragoned, we shouldn't necessarily need this dialogue scene. We should look at the scene and say, "Oh, I get it. Eustace is feeling pain. Oh, I get it. Eustace is having to say, I can't do this." That should be self-evident visually. Then this dialogue scene can be icing on the cake. So I like this scene because it's like, wow, they really understand the importance of having these ideas, the ideas about the character in the movie. I just hope that the scene still stands alone by itself. This is another place where, and this is true for the first clip as well, the dialogue sounds a little less modern. So sorry for being such a sod, Eustace said. It sounds a little less modern. Is that an intentional decision? I don't know, but it would be much appreciated if it was. What I love most about this clip is hearing Lucy say, "Aslan's country, what's it going to be like?" And Eustace is like, "I can't imagine it really," setting up that kind of a sense of anticipation over what's it going to be like, that sort of awe and fear and wonder of the unknown. So much about what I love about Dawn Treader. I just hope that that's something that runs through the entire film and not just this clip. So overall, a few minor concerns here and there, but the positives far outweigh the negatives with these clips. At the end of my analysis for the first Dawn Treader trailer, I was saying, man, all this stuff just looks bad. I hate the way it's presented. All these little bits just don't look good at all to me. I did not like the vibe I was getting. But I said at the end, I hope it's just that we haven't seen that much, and when Fox starts to reveal more, we'll feel better. This gives me some confidence that maybe that's the case. Maybe as Fox reveals more, we'll start to feel better and better. Like, finally, I can grab onto these scenes and say, these look good. So definitely, my expectations for the film have gone up as a result of these clips.